The last presentation for this segment, which would conclude day one, is really interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and something that we can only imagine when we always like say, "I wish I had a twin." This is titled "Confidently Getting More Done with Your Decision-Making Twin." This is a joint session by Mark Keith and Dr. Carl Kühnert. Mark Keith is a business development manager for Merlin Intelligence Technologies Corporation, USA. He works with firms to implement rapid human-to-machine knowledge transmission using machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques. He helps firms to use Merlin's Tacit Object Modeler, or also known as TOM technology, to transmit subjective knowledge from humans into logical, transparent models of decision-making digital twins called virtual experts, or VE, and implement the VE to augment human decision-making, break decision-making constraints, and improve decision-making quality, consistency, and speed. Mark is joined by Dr. Carl Kühnert, who is a professor at the practice organizational research psychologist at the Department of Organization and Management, Gozueta Business School, Emory University. Dr. Kühnert is an organizational research psychologist and professor in the Department of Organization and Management at Emory Gozueta. He consults with firms and government agencies and teaches in the areas of leadership development, decision-making, artificial intelligence, and works globally, helping leaders apply exponential and disruptive innovation and thinking in their organization. Having said that, I will turn it to both you gentlemen and looking forward to your talk. Same goes here. Please put your questions in the Q&A, and then towards the end, the speakers will answer your questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Keith. I am with Merlin Intelligence Technologies Corporation. We are an AI firm, and organizations use our technology to create digital twins and create their digital workforce. Carl?
My name is Carl Kühnert from the Gozueta Business School at Emory University. And we are here today to introduce you to a new approach that duplicates the decision of your best experts in your agency. Our presentation title is Confidently Getting More Done with Your Decision-Making Digital Twin. We have a short list of topics to cover. The first is what if? And these are long-standing agency problems that can now be addressed by decision-making digital twins. The current reality reflects on important truths about government life today. A solution is describing what digital twins are and using digital twins. Mark shows how they are created and how straightforward the process is to do. And Mark will also describe project outcomes and recent use cases. And of course, we will be available after our session for questions, so please have them ready. First here is what if, and there's a series of questions here that if you could answer them, they would make your agency much stronger. And so the first one here, and I'm not going to go through them all, but there's a few that are really important. And you could use, what if you could use your very best experts, that is 24/7, by duplicating how they make their decision. That is, you could have an expert available to you, again, anytime, any place, anywhere. That your digitized expertise and created more access to your agency experts. That is, not reduce your workforce, but actually multiply your workforce. This tool augments decision-making. It doesn't replace it. We need experts, and those experts, as we know, are very important to all of our agencies. Another I think important what-if question is, what if critical decisions that could be made transparent to auditors and to others? We've had issues with artificial intelligence creating biased results, and in large part, that's the reason for that is obviously the data that gets put in to the computer. And what we have here is we're actually digitizing humans, and we know who was making this decision. And so when it comes to transparency, you can't get more transparent than actually know who is creating the data for these digital twins. And so lastly, again, what if you had more people working with and working like your very best? What would it mean if we had more people actually working at the top of their game like an expert is? The current reality is that the very important truth is that government services are constrained, and we're really limited by the number of people and, of course, our budgets. The other point here is, and it's very important, is that we're living in a rapidly changing society, and what's happening is this is actually putting more demands on our services. Today, all businesses are technology companies, and government is no different. Let's talk a minute about decision-making digital twins. We are not talking here about automating decisions. We're not talking about using experts that are essentially derived from data. Oftentimes we hear about digital experts, and they're actually created through algorithms that are based on large amounts of data. What we're doing here is we're actually tapping into the wisdom of experts. And I mean, let's face it, experts are so important, and really what's one of the things that sets them apart is their ability to look around corners. They have the ability to look ahead, to see what's coming down the road. And so this knowledge really can only be tapped into if we can do it directly. And that's what we're able to do with these decision-making digital twins. We know, and what we're able to show here is what human experts value. What are their priorities? Now we know that many experts use the same data that you and I use, but they prioritize that data differently. And what we're able to do with these twins, the digital twins, is be able to show again how experts make those important priority decisions.
One of the approach that we're talking about here is using AI differently than we often think about using AI and machine learning. Rather than actually using the AI to analyze data, as Carl has been talking about, what if you turn that AI to learn from humans? And so the approach here is to actually learn from humans and create a digital equivalent of that human making a decision. And the question then becomes, what's the implication for our firms? What's the implication for delivering government services? And one thing's for sure, though, and we're going to dive a little deeper into this. If we're talking about humans cloning themselves and cloning how a human makes a decision, this better be something that's fairly easy to use and that can actually be done fairly quickly. And the use of this approach of creating digital twins, decision-making digital twins of your best people, it has to be something that non-scientists, people who are experts in their decision domain must be able to easily do. But before we dive into that, let's make sure we kind of put this in context. And that's like, why would we want to create a digital equivalent, a decision-making digital twin of one of our experts? Well, the reality is that there's a lot that we can actually do with data, and there's a lot we can do with rules that we engineer that allow decisions to be made and to accelerate decision-making processes. There are times, however, that we either must use a human or we want to use a human. We don't want to take humans out of the loop. We don't want to put the decision, in the hands of an algorithm. We want humans to be involved. And the reason we want that is because humans are going to bring expertise and wisdom. They're going to bring context. They're going to bring empathy and ethics. They're going to recognize relevant information, and they're going to have a sense for the noise. This is what happens when you become an expert. In humans, as you see in this simple example here, they make a decision. In this case, I'm going to do A, I'm going to do B, or I don't know what's going on and I'm going to escalate this. Decision-making digital twins is an approach where you augment the decision-making of the human by creating this digital equivalent, this virtual expert, this digitized expert of a human, and making that expertise available, making the same decision. We got a human making a decision here to do A, do B, or escalate, but with the availability of expertise anytime, anywhere. That's the concept behind it. And kind of looking at this, we're going to dive into some specific examples, but stepping back from this and kind of looking at it a little bit generically here, if you think about where humans assist other humans in the decision-making process, that's the same logic that you would apply when you actually are thinking about decision-making digital twins and how a virtual expert would assist others. And if you actually think about that, humans helping humans is a pretty broad, a broad field, and it happens all the time. So you think about it from an agency perspective. You've got, agency employees are analyzing information. They are fraud analysts. They are social workers. They're doing portfolio and case specialty work, and they are making decisions based on the information that they receive from the field, from agency sources, from the analytics that you guys are implementing, the data analytics, which is absolutely critical, and the data that's coming in from other sources. And kind of at a high level here, you either make a decision to act, you make a decision not to act, or you make a decision that you're going to actually gather additional information. Expertise is out there, and as Carl Kunert was talking about in the what ifs, what if your experts were available, and what if you could digitize them and make them available? And this is the idea. There are people in the field, there are people who are making decisions that have more experience. They're the ones that you probably don't want to lose from your organization. They're the ones that you value, and you wish the others could learn from them as well. And the idea behind the approach of using decision-making digital twins is digitize them, create these digital experts, and then deploy those out there to augment the work that all humans are doing. Experts can always use a little crutch as well, and so that they also can employ the use of these decision-making digital twins. One thing's for sure, though, if it's going to be used by individuals who are not data scientists and who are not IT people, and they're the ones who are going to actually be creating the twins of themselves, it has to be a fairly straightforward process. And regardless of the technology that you choose, it's essentially this flow. You identify your expert and your decision that you want to digitize and decode. That decision has to be described, but not, for those of you that have used expert systems, not in the same way that an expert system demands that your experts convey tremendous amounts of information about that decision. In a environment where you're applying AI to actually decode that expertise, you really only need to know from the expert what they think about, because then it's a training period. And the expert then will train the technology to recreate that decision. And like I said, this type of thing needs to be quick. This can't take days. This has to take a matter of hours in order to be able to create this and actually then get yourself to the point where you're going to actually test and validate it. Once that's done, you've got yourself a decision-making digital twin that you can integrate, a virtual expert that you can integrate into your systems, or it can function as a standalone decision-making support. There are some examples of where this has been done globally, is in the area of transaction monitoring and fraud detection. Any type of system that generates alerts and warnings, any process that you have that generates exceptions that are handled by humans, is an area where decision-making digital twins can have an impact, because they can help accelerate the adjudication of any type of alert, warning, or exception. A value that often emerges very quickly in that type of environment is in the clearing of false positives. We know that any type of system that generates exceptions is going to create a number of false positives, which, when you really think about it in the end, is somewhat of a waste of time to apply human resources to. And what you see with these decision-making digital twins is that firms will actually use them to quickly spot what doesn't need their attention. And there's a beauty in that. If you spot what doesn't need your attention rapidly, then you obviously are putting your attention toward those things that you should. Rapidly resolving infrastructure and application issues in alerts is also an example where digital twins are used. In those cases where you have kind of high volume, low to moderate severity, you can actually create the twin of expert analysts who are looking at those alerts regarding your infrastructure and applications in order to accelerate the humans being able to quickly identify what to do. In cases where you have, major incidents, ones where downtime is actually going to be critical and detrimental to the system, those types of resolutions can take a longer period of time. They can take many, many groups of people who have to come together for that resolution. These twins can be used in that environment to quickly assess the alert that's been generated from a major incident and rapidly path that alert to the right team that needs to resolve that. Another good example in the social services area where decision-making digital twins are in use is in India, where it's helping social workers to reach more abused women and children. Also in supporting the hiring process, decisions in the hiring process. Carl made the comment that the thing about using these types of twins and applying AI to human decision-making and exposing how they make decisions, it creates transparency. That can be very powerful in the hiring process, because the decisions that are being made by the humans and supported by expertise in the form of digital experts is very transparent, and the hiring process can be very, very easily documented and justified. Anywhere there are records that are going to be screened, portfolios that have to be screened, documents that have to be screened, on an annual basis or regular basis, or because there has been a change and a review taking place, digitized expertise can be brought to bear in those environments as well, and actually accelerate the review and allow also much more volume and throughput. Hospital and clinical admissions is another example of where twins have been used to assist those in making the decisions on those admits, oftentimes, and very accelerating it. Carl, I want to turn it back over to you for the benefits.
Hey, thanks, Mark. I think you can see here that the benefits are many, but the real question is, how do decision-making digital twins add value to you and your agency? And there's a few here that kind of stand out. The first is, this is true in any time we put people together, whether it's in an agency or a business, whatever. There tend to be bottlenecks in decision making, and what happens is that a decision needs to be made, but it needs to be made by more than one person. And again, it's always a challenge to actually get all those people together or to help make that decision. And so what it does is it really slows down the decision-making process. And so, what we've learned through our experience is that these twins assist decision makers to rapidly and accurately make more consistent decisions. I mentioned this, but I just want to highlight it again, is that, with this ability to put this kind of technology, or this kind of this approach that we're taking, to be able to make it available, to put it on a phone, and have people look at how the best expert makes their decision, is really a benefit, because of its, as Mark says, its ease of use. And the other thing is just because we're dealing with a computer, we found that we can actually help augment these decisions that humans make at speeds of thousands of decisions per second, which is obviously incredibly fast. And again, I think this was somewhat of a surprise to us, but it's once we discussed it and thought about it, we came to understand that when we digitize that expert and we get his or her priorities in how they make the decision, once that becomes explicit, once it gets out there, what we found is that there's actually quite a bit of relief on the part of the expert, because what that now allows them to do, rather than spending time really checking up on other people and taking their questions, what happens is they end up now having time to actually dedicate to upcoming or future problems or things that the agency really needs. And so in some ways it's a freeing process for the expert themselves, who now can work on, if you will, the next generation problems that are coming to us quickly.
Well, we want to thank you for your time this afternoon, and we hope that the ideas that have been presented here are provocative and thoughtful. Wanted to just surface with you just a different approach and a different thinking about using artificial intelligence, and like we've talked about, really applying it to humans and recreating and deploying our best decision makers in this form of a decision-making digital twin. We've left some time here, obviously, for some questions, which we'll start here in just a moment. And we will be in the networking sessions tomorrow. And we look forward to you joining us for those sessions. And we can talk more deeply at that time. Thank you very much. a couple of comments before we actually jump into the question and answer session. You know, this morning Calvin was talking about finding new ways of doing things differently, and Daryl actually even made a comment about digital twins. We actually extend what Daryl's meaning of digital twin from a systems approach to actually thinking of digital twins potentially of a decision maker. And Nikhil was also talking about being people centric and ensuring that our services are very people centric. Our goal here today really is to just kind of seed your thinking, to get you thinking about a new approach for AI, for really tackling resource limitations. We have people, can we force multiply that? You know, when you think about human decision making and you think about what we do to try to improve human decision making, you know, we try to provide the right data to humans so that can assist in their human decision making. We analyze that data. We use machine learning. We use artificial intelligence. We use predictive analytics, and we provide that analysis to humans to help them, assist them in improving their decision making. But there's also, you know, if I'm a decision maker, I as a decision maker can also seek out training. I can be provided training, I can be provided with decision-making tools, and I can be mentored by others, but I too can seek out those around me. I can walk down the hall and I can ask Joe, hey, Joe, can you help me on this because Joe's really good at it? Or I could ask Les because Les is really, really good at it. And so what we've really been talking about today, creating a digital decision-making twin of the best decision makers in your agency or in your workflow, then that's something that we already are very comfortable with. We already ask one another often to help us make a decision. And this is creating a very easy and rapid way to actually get to your decision makers. And we'd like to open it up for questions. Please, if you would use the question and answer feature to actually put some questions out there, we'll be more than happy to answer a few of those. The first one that we got here was around intellectual property, and I'm going to have to answer that really, unfortunately, from very much our perspective as an organization that provides this. But the reality is that intellectual property is your intellectual property. No different than if you use Microsoft Word and you create a document, that document is your intellectual property. If you use a technology to create decision-making digital twins, the reality is that twin contains your intellectual property. And that's the kind of things that certainly when we work with corporations and when we work with government agencies, that has to be very explicit, because that really is your bread and butter, your sauce there. As far as your question regarding royalties, you know, you see applications out there already in areas, and I mean, you can go out to Google and to the Apple Store as well, and there are applications that people have created. This is coming. This is an approach that, as these types of technologies emerge, where you are able to actually clone yourself, making a decision, I think you're actually going to see more and more applications being built and people actually monetizing their expertise out on platforms such as that. We got another question that reads, would this be used for troubleshooting or decision chains as part of an automated customer health service, or is it beyond that approach? I'm going to try to answer that, and if I don't answer it, please, Juliana, add to it. If you think about that troubleshooting process, and you think about the decisions that are made inside of that process, there will be ones that you can sit down at a table with all the experts and write the rules that you want that to be answered with or guided, or data scientists can help you do that. For the ones that you actually want a human, and I want Nikhil to answer this question, I want Carl to answer this question, I want their expertise to actually be part of my automated system, the answer to your question is yes. Once you use a technology like this to create a digital twin, then that's simply an application. It will be in our case, it's a jar file. It sits out there and you can query that application. And so you can integrate these into systems. And we have seen where digital twins have been integrated into transaction monitoring systems where panels of experts sit on the backside of transaction monitoring systems that are looking for fraud, money laundering, that type of financial crime activity. And literally at 22,000 decisions a second, those virtual experts are actually rendering an opinion regarding a transaction, whether it's for potential fraud. So you actually do have a methodology now to automate how the human makes a decision, and you can put those into those types of workflow. The next question was about an interface for something like this. In the slide earlier in the presentation, it was about the process. Any type of interface for working with something like this, it really needs basically to know what does the expert think they think about. So you need to be able to actually gather that information from the expert in a question and answer kind of methodology. If I have a great track record, let's just throw an example out. If I had a great track record of hiring, and I was known as somebody, I'm not perfect, but I can hire pretty good people into my department, and they stay longer, they do better work. It's I'm known for that. I could sit down with the interface to this type of technology and tell that technology, I think about the following things. I look at their reading level. I look at this. I look at this. I look at this. I could articulate to that technology what I think about, and then the technology is going to turn around and say, well, let me give you a scenario. What would you do here? Would you hire this one? Would you hire this one? Would you hire this one? And through a scenario-based training, and literally within a matter of hours, the technology would learn how you are making that decision. That's the beauty of that application of the artificial intelligence, and the ability to actually take a very, very large decision domain and sample that domain through scenarios in such a way that you can figure out, oh, here's how that human is making the call. We got one more question here. Carl, before I keep going, any comment?
No, I think one of the issues I thought was really interesting, I thought you might bring up here, Mark, but this has to do with the fact that the technology itself will actually let us know whether you are an expert or not, and is how well that you can actually, how reliable are you to yourself. And so we have interviewed experts at the front line, and they are in fact indeed experts. In fact, we realized that as Mark said, in a couple of hours, we've taken their supervisor, who has been kind of off the front lines for a number of years, but who in fact has different responsibilities. Turns out this person was not a very good expert. And so, what's really important in the work that we do is we have to identify who that expert is, because the technology actually doesn't make expertise better, right? All it really does is duplicate what that person already knows.
Yep. We got a great question about quality control. This is actually really good, because in no way, shape, or form would we personally advocate that a decision-making digital twin replace a human. The problem at this particular point in time, the goal is to scale and make available expertise to anybody who needs it whenever they need it. And that's the force multiplication that's taking place here. With respect to quality control, because we don't advocate that the twin replace the human, that yes, the decision that the twin makes and recommends to the human has got to be reviewed, and then there's your quality control. Now, we have seen high volume environments where the digital twins, the confidence in the decision the digital twin is making is extremely high. And that confidence can actually be calculated as part of the development process. And so when you have a digital twin replicating a human or a panel of humans with 99.996% confidence that the twin is actually replacing it, you can create a quality control process that is a sampling process, and that particularly in an environment of high volume of false positives, that actually can be extremely helpful if you've got a monitoring system, but either for technology monitoring or for financial crimes monitoring that has a lot of false positives, that the technology can become the twins can become very, very good at spotting the false positives. I want to back up to the infrastructure one, but I know there are a lot of IT people here as well. That we know that alerts are generated from infrastructure monitoring and application monitoring, and that your level 2, your level 3 analysts, those who are the analysts who are responsible for responding to the incident, years of experience matter. Your training matters. Your knowledge matters, and in that environment like that, you can digitize those types of people. And you can capture how they would perform that initial look at an incident and decide, this is what I think needs to be done. Where that can be powerful is that before your human actually even begins their work, the digital humans have already looked at it and said, okay, I've got my panel of digital humans, and they're weighing in on what they think the potential problem is and what the potential solution is. And so your humans start their process already seeded with potential reasons and potential outcomes to which they can then perform the quality check on the assessment the digital twins did, and execute it and accelerate the mean time to recovery. Is a perfect example. And I think any other questions? Carl, closing comments?
Well, yeah, I'd have everyone think about, what's the most important decision that's made in your agency that has real impact on people, and what would it mean if we could duplicate that decision and have that be shared? Right, the impact that would have on your agency.
Well, I want to thank everybody for attending, and I'll thank very much the Georgia Technology Authority for the opportunity to be here today. Please come and see us tomorrow. We will be in the networking sessions tomorrow, the Merlin networking session, or in the breakouts. As you think about this and you think about where decisions are made in your organization, if you think about this too much, your head will blow up. It can become quite overwhelming as you begin to think, well, I wonder if we could digitize that person, and I wonder if we could digitize that decision. But as you guys think about that, please come to our session tomorrow. We'd be more than happy to explore some use cases, talk about what the potential is, and really talk about the potential to force multiply your talent, the talent that already exists inside your organization, and and do more with that talent. And Nikhil, I'll turn this back over to you, please. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mark and Carl. That was, and Keith, and that was that was really insightful. It's fascinating where the options are taking us, and it was good to see those snippets of these examples. And one last question would be, where would, if I want to follow this project and keep up with like where this is going, like what would be a resource where I can bookmark and kind of see some of the implementations?
Well, certainly on our website, which I think is in the material for this, would be a starting point. There are a lot of different technologies out there, and I'm sure that a lot of you, as you were listening to us talk, were thinking that these guys sound a lot like expert systems, and so well, we're not. We are the expert. That's what the difference is. We're kind of what expert systems wish they could be, because we actually do capture human expertise inside of it. And using an approach of digital twins does that. So there's lots of technologies out there that advocate this. But I would, obviously encourage you to take a look at the materials that came with it for the program.
Got it. Well, thank you so much again, Mark. Thank you so much, Carl. I want to turn to our audience and thank everyone for attending. What a day full of really insightful information. Hope everyone got a lot of good action items and good stuff from the cybersecurity and the importance of cybersecurity, specifically in this distributed world that we are in. Also hope the digital government segment helped in kind of not just exposing us to some of the things that are coming ahead, but also some of the things that we could kind of go back and take a look at our own setups and be like, maybe we could start collecting some of that information on who our users are, what are some of the trends, what are some of the disruptors that we can identify. Finally, I do want to thank our sponsors, Merlin and Compliance Point. Do catch them tomorrow in the networking breaks if you have more questions for them. Day 2, based on the agenda, is already looking very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it, starting with, I guess, the brief talks from experts on remote work and the new reality of how we're going to be working and what it will unwrap for the future. And also, we will conclude the conference, the summit, with everything you want to know about broadband in Georgia.